Hi everyone, my name is Victoria and I'm going to talk to you about a church called Santa Sofía, taking into account the Byzantine art. As we know and we have seen this idea about God and the emperors, we are going to have still this idea about the Maximus power that is going to be represented in a spiritual way, such as God is going to be the best, the Maximus power, and the emperors or governors are going to be the ones that are going to be the representatives of God in earth. So we're going to start with this idea in all this explanation of this church. It's going to be really interesting how we're going to find here an unification of different cultures or different ways of expressing and different thoughts, and the final result, how we can find nowadays all this construction, all the changes that have suffered, and it's going to be so fun to know all these aspects. Okay, we are going to start with all this description, and here says that we're going to talk about the arcos and cupolas that are going to be taken into account in the lineage Roman, in the Roman lineage. The mosaics with all this illumination that we start to see in the Gothic art, and now we're going to find in the regions of the Byzantine art. In nowadays, it is going to be a museum of the history of Constantinople. Now it's in Istanbul, giving the church, and it gives us a huge perspective in order to consider all these aspects that we are going to be seeing in the next slides. In order to understand all these changes, we are going to divide all these in 4 stages. We are going to start with the first stage, and says that the wood roof collapsed in the 404 because of a popular revolt called Megalith Iglesia, or in English a big church. So this idea of having huge construction is going to be taken into account. In the second stage, we are going to find here a representative author called Theodosius II, such as the emperor of this age, of these ages. And here we have that the basilica structure is going to be taken into account with 5 naves and a monumental entry, such as here we are seeing the huge vision, the huge viewpoint that we have in this entry. It is going to be with wood, covered with wood. So all these stylistic aspects are going to be so much taken into account. Even here we have that is going to be demolished, that was demolished, because there were some combats, as in some of the arts as we have seen. We can notice that there are fightings, and all these things cause at the end the demolition and the loss of the constructions or types of art. Now that in the previous slide we were talking about the demolition of the destruction of all these construction because of these several problems, and now in the third one we're going to find the reconstruction of all these construction. And here we're going to find two authors, 2 people that are going to be so important, are going to be an architect and a mathematician, Isidoro de Mileto and Antemio de Trales. They are going to be guided by Justinian with his orders. They are going to construct or try to take into account the most important things in order to can have it again. So it says that it is finished 5 years later, and they had a ceremony in order to make the inauguration of all this new construction. Now in the first stage we're going to have a huge change we're going to most of the parts of the construction are going to be taken into account, and other things are going to change. In this case, the Islamic faith is going to be the maximum expression. Before we saw that it was about God in the religions of the Christianism, but now it's going to change. It is going to change to a mosque, and here says that they are going to be added for minarets and adapted to the corresponding religion as the ones that I have said. And well, here says that finally in 1935 it is turned to a museum. So nowadays we can find it like that, like a museum. Now, in all this report that we have to fill, I want to consider more this part talking about the technique, identification of technical properties, because I found lots of vocabulary and lots of materials that I think are interesting, and it is good if we can know more about them. So first we have the marble, bricks, glass, and mosaics. The dome is done with its hull with mortar and brick. Here I decided to put some images in order for us to be more clear, like the meaning of the words that we don't know. So here we have the first one that says that in the inside there is a white, green, and purple porphyry polychrome marbles, as the two images we have here next to this sentence that I read. This, and here we can see how beautiful they look. I think they look amazing. And since here we can see the style, the good style, and the beauty things. Then says that exterior is covered with stucco. Stucco suggests the image that we have here, painting yellow and red because of the 19th century restoration. So here, okay, we said that it was for the Christianism, but then changed to a mosque, and the Islamic faith is going to be the maximum expression. So this material was used in order to cover the certain manifestation of the previous religion, in order to now change to the new religion. Then says ashlar or carved stones with multiple faces were used too for certain whales. So here again, most of the whales were covered, and then change to the different manifestation of new thoughts and beliefs. In order to finish all this presentation, I just want to give my general idea, my conclusion about all this investigation, about the books that I read, in order to get all this explanation about the materials, about the different techniques, about how cultures can get involved, different cultures with different thoughts and beliefs. I think this is the most important and interesting part for me, because I have found like every part that is there in the church is there because the spectators, when we are there, we can see, and as we have seen with the different arts since the beginning with the Egyptians, that they took so much into account the perspective, the different dimensions that we cannot see if we are not in the correct position, how with the Gothic art, the illumination, the huge church, the huge constructions. So all this is so interesting. I really enjoy so much because of my religion. I could see the different descriptions that I got there in the books that I found. And I think it's this, such as even when we share different ideas and beliefs, we can still work in a collaborative way, and we can share, like here you can we saw in the third and fourth stage that they take into account the good things, and others they change, of course. And I think this part is important in every aspect. For example, now that I'm in teaching, we have seen that in the creation of the different methods, they take into account the important things, but they, on the other hand, they change the weakness. So I think this is all for my part, and hope you